Hey guys, welcome back. We are back with Ross Jeffries, that guy, Secrets of Speed Seduction. We left off with Module 2. We're going to Module 3 here, which is self-conscious about approaching women, is what Julio is saying that he is. So he needs help, Julio, with approaching women. All right. Ross goes on to say his challenge is that when he goes to talk to women, he's embarrassed, afraid, nervous, or anxious about what other people are going to think about what he's doing. In his mind, he projects their thoughts about what he's doing. I think you guys can begin to expect what my answer is going to be here. It's time to get some perspective, he says. A lot of you guys are going to have some problems approaching women. I did in the beginning for sure. It's very common for all of us to go through that, all right? He says, first of all, you're just not that important. And I'm going to stop there. You are not that important until you make yourself that important, okay? Understand that. If someone doesn't know you, you're not that important until you make yourself that important, okay? That's what I'm going to say about this. Let's continue on to see what he says. People are more interested in the people on their ass than what you're doing in the world, unless it directly affects them, he says, unless your words are directed at them specifically. They probably don't give much of a fuck what you say or what you don't. The second perspective I want to give you, Julio, is my personal perspective in business and life. If you're not offending someone, you're not doing life large enough to enjoy it. Finally, when you have skill with a woman, it's something people actually admire. They want to see you do it. It's a matter of positive curiosity. Let me give you some ways to handle the issue of getting too wrapped up in your fears about what other people think and say about you. Let's try altering submodalities. Submodalities are the smaller pieces within the visual, auditory, and kinesthetic modalities, he says. That's a mouthful, but I'll talk on this in a minute when I get through with all his points. For example, if you're talking to yourself on the inside, try saying the same thing to yourself, but altering the tone of voice. If you're saying to yourself, I'm such a fuck up, no one will like me, make the tonality seductive or silly. Makes sense. Anytime that you change what you're saying into a seductive or silly tonality, no one takes it too serious compared to how it's going to sound if you really, really, really mean it. All right. Try moving the location of the voice that is telling you people are going to rag on you or judge you. If subjectively you seem to hear it from here, experiment with moving it over here or there. Let it say the same thing, but make it come from a different place, he says. I can't tell you which one will work for you because everyone is wired a little bit differently, but experiment with that. There may be visual imagery you're making of people laughing at you or talking in a nasty way about you. If it's the visual component that's really bothering you, you have to change it around, he says. Take the images that you have in your mind and run the whole thing backwards. Put circus music to it if you need to. If the pictures are moving, make them still pictures. Freeze them. Push the pictures away from you. Try tutoring down the brightness or making the pictures smaller, he says. Experiment with these submodality changes and see how that affects the way that these thought patterns have been blocking you. Now, when he says this about put circus music to it, for God's sakes, don't go out there and physically walk up to a woman with circus music either playing in your ear or on a fucking speaker. That's not what he means. He's saying if that helps to drown out all the fear and anxiety that's going on up here in your head, pretend you hear circus music as you're doing this. That's all he's saying. Finally, find your trigger sound. Is there a sound that makes yourself, just prior to thinking of all these, limiting, anxiety-producing thoughts? For example, if your sound is ah, stop making that sound. That ah is opening up all the circuitry that is required to energize all the negative and anxiety thinking, he says. What sound would work better for you? What's the sound you make when you're curious? It might be a sound like or ah. What's the sound when you're sure you're going to go for it? Try making different trigger sounds and see how this changes things. All right, guys, I'm going to talk for just a minute about this section. He pretty much gave shit advice to Julio, okay? Here's what I'm going to tell you about your approach anxiety. One, he is only right in what I read you in the fact that you don't fucking matter, okay? You do not matter, as I've said, until you make yourself matter. Okay? If you're at a club or a bar or wherever you're at and you see someone that you're interested in and you're afraid to go talk to them, guess what? Two things are going to happen. Either you're going to go home and fuck them, or they're not even going to know that you fucking exist. There's two options there. All right? So I know which one you want to do, but guess what? If it happens that they don't even know who you are because you blew it or they're not into you, who gives a fuck? Okay? Who cares? No one, unless they're sitting right next to you when you do this, in the bar or the club is even going to know that you got rejected. Okay? They can't hear you. They see you talking to somebody and that's it. And even if they did, who cares? There's a billion people in the world that you could interact with. Okay? The only value in getting rejected is the fact that A, you're going to pick yourself up and do it again, but B, you're going to write down the things that you did wrong and you're not going to do that next time. Okay? So my best advice is just that. You don't mean shit. Okay? And guess what? They don't really mean shit either. So keep that in mind. Now, before I end this, I do want to go back into another question that he has, okay, because that was a short one with Julio. This one is Module 4, Breakthrough Approach Anxiety, okay? And this question is to Formless. Hey guys, it's RJ, once again, Ross Jeffries, with another Answers to Students video module. This is for a student named Formless, actually in the Answers to Students video module, blah, 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 blah. A big part of my answer is going to be asking you some questions, Formless, which I would like you to respond to in the members forum. Then I can record a subsequent video when I follow. All right. This is some online bullshit that he's got going on with paid students. Anyway, the question is how to break through the approach anxiety. That is important. That's why I'm reading this to you. Essentially, his problem, he says, is that he gets a lot of bad feelings when it comes to approaching women. He feels tightness in his chest. His chest gets so tight that he can't even fucking say anything. Interestingly enough, he had an experience where, for some reason, he was able to squeak something out at a girl. As soon as he did that, everything seemed to expand. He couldn't seem to stop himself from talking to girls for the rest of the day. As he described himself as having the problem, he also had situations where the problem didn't take place. Let's see how we can help Formless. First and foremost, as a teacher, he says, I always want to look for the resource. Sometimes students have been stuck in an area of life that's been unresourceful and painful for a long time. Lose the ability to see what's best and being resourceful. Even when they are being resourceful for a day, as Formless apparently was, I affirm you still can be. Okay? I own that you still can be because the resource becomes an accident. We don't want that. We want the resource to be just that, a resource. Look at the word resource. Re means again, source means something of value. To revisit that source makes it a resource rather than just an event. Ross, this is a fucking tongue twister, dude. You could have thrown this shit out of the explanation. Somewhere in you were able to reverse the problem. Even better news is that part of your mind that was able to resolve the problem that is still there. I think we have two goals, he says. The first is to find out how you reverse the problem. All right, I'm going to skip all that. All right. He's going to go into fucking tongue twisters. I'm not doing that bullshit. I'm just going to tell you, back to the approach anxiety, about how none of this shit matters. Okay? None of it fucking matters whatsoever. All right? I'm looking through some more of this book, and honestly, I think we're getting close to the end of everything. I really don't see any more in this book that's very helpful. And what I'm going to tell you is I'm going to continue. I'm going to have to reach out and find another book that I want to talk about. But this is pretty much going to be the end of the Ross Jeffries series. Again, some of his things are good in this book, but like the fucking dude is outdated. All right. He's just outdated. Some things are good, but half of this book didn't even have anything to do with seduction. It was answering questions that had pretty much nothing to do with nothing. So I wouldn't really encourage anyone to read this book. You could watch the videos that I just did and that pretty much wraps up everything he's trying to teach. I'm going to come out with a video with another book. I'm going to go find one now. I'll post that as soon as I can. But for now, this is the last part of Ross Jeffries. And I appreciate all you guys that have stuck with this. Be on the lookout for the next book review I'm going to do. And we're going to have chats about it and everything else. Like, subscribe, send me questions. Tell me the things you like. Tell me the things you don't like. More importantly, I just like interacting with you guys. And it's been fun on this book, and we're going to get to the next one. If you have recommendations of something you'd like me to review and talk about, please drop those in the comments. And I'll just put down the book we're doing. We'll go to the new book. All right? Love you guys. Later.